Mate, it's been an interesting season for Pablo Fornals. I think it's fair to say not been the best for him as a West Ham player. You could see that the last sort of few months he hasn't looked himself. He's looked quite rightly and understandably quite down because he's gone from a player that was so key last season to a player that really struggled to even get himself in the team at all. But wild God, mate, what a way to make your mark and get yourself back in the spotlight with West Ham and showing your love for the club again. First of all, mate, what do you think? What was your feelings of seeing Fornals score that goal? I mean, for me personally, I'd love to see it. It was such a magical moment.
Yeah, I mean, with Craig Dawson gone, he seems like our biggest cult hero at the moment. Yeah. You know, I think he's become a West Ham fan in his own right. Obviously, coming from Spain, maybe not. I don't know, obviously, what he was like prior to joining, but young player, might not have had the best English, debut in the Premier League, cemented himself in the West Ham side, and you know, at times was one of our best players in the team. And I think begrudgingly he has sort of become second string with Benrahma being able to step up and just being that more attacking winger, which I do think suits us a lot more. Like, it's nice to have that option of Fornals, who's obviously way better defensively, great work rate, great passer of the ball. I just think Benrahma is just more exciting, and for me, probably has cemented himself as the better winger for West Ham. Doesn't mean I've got any sort of reservations about starting him. Doesn't mean that I want him off in the summer or anything like that. And I actually think he's probably a great presence around the dressing room and overall quite a good person at the club. But you could tell it meant a lot to him. Whether that's put any question marks in David Moyes' mind as to whether he should be starting in the final, I don't think it should. But, you know, whether it's sort of thrown up some red herrings for him, I'm not sure. But you could tell that goal meant a lot for him. And like I said, he's a West Ham fan in his own right. Obviously, he famously came on the mic and sang West Ham are massive. It's become a meme.
He did it again, didn't he? Did you see it? He did it again.
Around West Ham Twitter, and he's done it again. You know, he's just one of those players that gets the fans, gets the sort of all around the club, gets what we love as fans. And, you know, like I said, with Craig Dawson gone, I feel like he is probably our biggest cult hero at the moment. And, it's just great to see him in the limelight, getting his goal. And, you know, he took it so well, you know, picking up the ball from midfield, winning that sort of 50-50 battle, poking it through the legs. And I think, you know, you see Benrahma go through in that situation, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, I don't know if he's got the shot on here, but you see Fornals go through and you just sort of think to yourself, I think he's got it here. It just felt right. And obviously, you know, Danny Ings knew about 10 seconds before he even took the shot, he was celebrating with his hands up in the air. But yeah, absolutely really, really chuffed for him. And I think, you know, is there any other player you would prefer to score that goal?
No, I think David Moyes said that, and he did say that, and I felt the same way. If you're going to have a player score the winner in the last, you know, injury time, it had to be Pablo. You know, he's had such a tough season, and I do feel for him because I do think he's played out of position at West Ham. He's not a left winger; he's more a central player anyway. So I really feel for him, and you can see the frustration he's had this season. So it was wonderful for him to. Well, for that moment for him to score such a valuable goal, and let's be honest, he goes down in history. He'll remember for that forever that he got us the goal that took us to the final. What it also does as well, I don't know whether, like, I think you're right. I don't know if it's enough for Moyes then to go, oh, I think I'm going to put him in for the final. I think Moyes knows his best 11. I think we know our best 11 really. Who, you know, if everyone's fit, who he's going to pick. But what is quite interesting for Fornals is that. I was starting to doubt whether he had a future at West Ham after this season, starting to think whether he's going to start looking around thinking, I'm not really a part of it here. I need to start moving on. And I don't want to see him be miserable. I want him to be happy because, as you say, he's a West Ham fan. You can see it, and I love him, and I don't want to see him sort of decline. But what's interesting now is I'm hoping that goal will not only have him, as we record this is before the Leeds game. So I'm hoping that gets him a starting spot against Leeds. I think he fully deserves it. I think that the crowd will be fantastic welcoming him on the pitch, which I think will do him no harm at all. I think it remind him how much he is loved. But what it could do as well, when he goes off, you know, when we wrap up this season, hopefully as a European champions, you know, you never know, hopefully, and we look forward to the next season. I think we're going to have significant change at the club anyway. I think with Declan Rice, it's likely to go. That's going to free up. I don't think Souček's going to be part of the long-term plan now going forward. My gut feeling is there's going to be a bit of a shake-up in our midfield. if I was Fornals, I'd want to be part of that. I'd say, look, I want to play ahead of Paqueta and another. Let's go and get another midfielder in to replace Rice. I will be your the one that plays in Souček's role. I think that's what I'm hoping will happen with Fornals. I'm hoping this gives him that sort of catalyst to see his future at West Ham, because it must have been, mentally quite tough for him to sort of sit on the sidelines and not really be a part of it. Mate, I'm absolutely chuffed for him. In terms of that, then, do you see a big future for Fornals at West Ham, or do you think this is a bit of a cameo like last bit and he should be moving on? What's your feelings?
Well, I think Lanzini's going in the summer, and I think Rice is probably going in the summer. But, imagine you've got sort of Fornals as this sort of 8 player who's covering for whoever we get in for Rice. I mean, are we going to want to get a player like Rice that drives the ball forward so much when we've got someone who comes deep like Paqueta? I feel like we're probably going to want to go for just a proper number 6 that just sort of sits in between the defence and can go forward from time to time. We've seen Declan Rice go forward and it caused problems for the team. As much as I think the gamble is worth it with how good he is on the ball and how good he is going forward, if we're looking to bring someone in, potentially someone like Phillips, for example, we're going to want him to just do what he did at Leeds and just sit deep, distribute the ball. I mean, Paqueta should be our, who we play through. He should be the player, the main architect in that midfield, doing what he does best, linking the players together. You bring someone like Fornals in the team, and you think about what his role would be instead of Souček. Souček almost ghosts a lot of the game. I know the boys talking about that on the podcast quite a few times. He doesn't look like he wants to get on the ball. When he does get on the ball, he drops a bit deep. He doesn't really play it forward too often. Whether that's, what Moyes has told him to do because he's not the most confident passer or whatever it is, I don't know. But imagine having like a good number 6. You've got Paqueta dropping in deep, but then you've got someone like Fornals who's just mopping up everything, going forward, dropping in the spaces, covering Fornals, covering Paqueta where he needs to cover him. I think that'd be a brilliant move for him into the midfield, because I think, especially with Cornet, a young player, I feel like he's more like for Benrahma. You don't always want that, but I think if will he be happy being a second string player? I don't know, but I feel like he's got a really good role to play in this team still, with Lanzini gone, and potentially Rice gone. You've got Downs as an understudy potentially. You bring someone like Fornals in, and then Souček's more of a last 20 minutes sort of player. You need to close out the last 20 minutes, and you want someone big in the air to win those balls and give us a bit more possession. You bring them on. But for me, Fornals and Paqueta seems like a really exciting sort of 8-10 sort of pivot. And for me, I feel like that's his future at the club. I don't think that's something Moyes is going to adapt to. I feel like he's quite happy to have Fornals on the sidelines in place of Benrahma. Who knows? Maybe it's Benrahma's last season in a West Ham shirt. I don't know. I mean, Moyes has never been too fond with him, and he looked really annoyed when he came off in the Conference League game. So,
I'm not sure. I actually think that Benrahma's got the trust of Moyes now. Although he's frustrating, I think sometimes he finds it frustrating. I do think he is now his preferred winger.
That feels forced to me, though. Like, if it feels like, you're playing so well, I kind of have to play you, as opposed to you're playing well, you've earned it, I'm going to play you. I feel like still, if he had his way, if Fornals and Benrahma were playing in good form, I still feel like he trusts Fornals a lot more than he does Benrahma.
Well, I think what Fornals offers over Benrahma is his defensive work, doesn't it? I mean, and also, as you said, like, Benrahma's far more attacking minded and far more ability than Fornals in terms of running it and causing problems. So I do get it. I do understand there's a bit of a dilemma there. I actually do think Fornals has a future at West Ham. I really do. I'd like to see this as a season that's been a bit of a blip for him and he's struggled, but I think that goal will do him the world of good. And let's be honest, it'd be so nice because we need some consistency at West Ham. The last thing we want is too much change. We've just had a summer of a lot of change. We lost Noble, of course, and many backroom players, Fredericks and David Martin, and God knows, all these changes. The last thing we want is another summer of upheaval and losing Fornals, losing Danzini, losing Rice, and having to get all these new players. The last thing, we don't want that, really. So if I would be very reluctant to lose Fornals at all. I'd really like to keep him if we are going to lose Lanzini. Lanzini's not a big loss. It's sad. It's a sad loss because he means a lot to our club, but let's be honest, he hasn't really done anything for us this season, really. And I think his time is up. But But I'm really, really chuffed for Fornals. It was a moment where, like you say, he's a West Ham fan. You can sense how much the club means to him, and the fans do love him. And it was just a lovely reminder. It's almost like it was like a flashback to the Europa League the season before, where he was such a pivotal player in that. And now to be again back in that spotlight again and scoring such a big goal, mate, I'm just so pleased for him, and I just really, really hope that Moyes keeps this up with him. And also, I love the fact Moyes said that, because that's really unlike Moyes to say comments like that. He's usually very coy, isn't he, and sort of dry and doesn't really say too much. For him to say, if it was a goal player I wanted to score the winner, it was Pablo. It shows how much he means to Moyes. So I actually think I've got a sneaky feeling that goal could be a big turning point in his West Ham career from this season. After a miserable season, I think that could be the turning point. And I really hope it is. I really do.
Yeah, but do you think it's a turning point in terms of he's going to get that left wing spot back? Because I mean,
no,
this is the problem, isn't it, with having such a good squad in terms of actual personnel. I mean, you think if we can win the Conference League, we'll have European football again next year, and we're going to need the utility players like Fornals. We're going to need, and like you say, we don't want to lose players that we know are good. We don't want to lose players and gap. You know, if we get rid of Fornals, sell him. What's the point in that? Try him in midfield, try him in that number 8 spot. See if he can reclaim his spot as a left mid. Which for me, I do feel like Benrahma and Cornet should be the 2 utility players in that role. I think Fornals he's destined for midfield, isn't he? He's so comfortable on the ball.
He is,
he's
yeah.
Such good
I agree.
Play.
He's not a winger.
Defensively sounds like I think he's finally. I mean, if I'm Fornals, I'm sitting there and saying, look, where there's a huge gap in midfield here. I mean, you're losing Declan Rice. You're losing potentially Lanzini. I see Souček play week in, week out. And God knows I love the lanky guy, but, I should be playing over him. I mean, look at the way I play. If it's tough for me to get in front of Benrahma, which I understand, but you know that Moyes does prefer him. You know that Moyes does love him. I do think in the reverse scenario, if Benrahma just got subbed on the last 20 minutes and he's had the same sort of season that Fornals has had, would Moyes have come out and said that sort of comment? Probably not. But, Moyes is a very big fan of Fornals. I doubt he's going to want to get rid of him anytime soon. But at the same time, will he want to be second string? If there's not a place for him in that team and if there's not a position where he's saying, look, you can easily get ahead of this player. Because I feel like going into next season, we're going to want Scamacca up top. Hopefully, if he doesn't leave in the summer. The midfield rebuild is going to be difficult, but bringing like a player like Fornals and, next season, if we go in there with Downs, Fornals and Paqueta, can you honestly tell me that's a huge downgrade from having Declan Rice, Souček and Paqueta?
No,
I honestly don't think it is.
No, I don't. I think if they sell Rice this summer, in my opinion, they will have to invest heavily in a midfielder. There's no two ways about that. As much as I rate Downs, if he's a good player, and I want to see him given a chance, I don't think we need to get a very good midfielder alongside Paqueta. We're going to have to, because if we get 100 million for Rice, I don't want to see West Ham spend it on 5 20 million pound players. I want to see it spent on 2 50 million pound-esque players. We're seeing that now with Paqueta. What you get for 50 million quid, you get a really very, very good player. And if we could get another, say, 50 million pound-esque midfielder, let's just say, look, we got Onana from Everton, say alongside someone like that, and then a top draw striker. I mean, we'll talk about the summer. That's to come. I think there's a lot of changes needed this club. I'm not even sold on Scamacca, to be honest. I'm not really. I don't think he fits our system. I think what this season has shown, this whole game plan to create a new style to be more possession based and do something different. It hasn't worked. I don't want to see us go back down that rabbit hole again and Moyes go, right, I'm going to go back to try and change our system. He's got a system that works. We're a counter-attacking side. We absorb the pressure and we counter-attack. So if you're going to buy a striker, buy a striker that's the exact carbon copy of Antonio. If you're going to buy a winger, buy the exact kind of winger as Benrahma. If you're going to buy, just buy the same sort of players. Don't keep buying players to try and change the system, because let's be honest, Moyes has kind of shown this season he isn't very capable of changing systems. He's not that kind of manager. He's got a system he knows that works. Just stick to it. And if he is going to be our manager this season, I don't want to see that. I don't want to have another summer of all this trying and changing and we're going to change formations and be a different side. I think just stick to what we're good at. And what we're good at is really, what we've been showing the last few months is don't have much possession. Let the team have it. Just stay very solid, be really well organised. And when you're on the ball, be quite, astute with it. Counter-attack, do it well, nick a goal. That's our style. That's the way we play. And I think it just works. That's my feeling anyway. And
yeah,
I still think that Fornals has got a big role to play. But like you've said, mate, I'd rather see him coming more central now. It's obvious that's really where he's best. And I agree. Like if he was ahead of Paqueta and another, I think it would work really well. The only thing that probably lacks he'll struggle with under Moyes is that he doesn't have much height, and I think he likes that with Souček. He can win a lot of the headers, but look, let's wait and see. But until then, mate, we don't know. But I still, I'm still chuffed for Fornals, and you know what? Fingers crossed he does have a big future at West Ham, because he is. No, like you say, mate, he's a fan, isn't he?